Episode 201 of the Outdoor Biz Podcast with Mike Ferrell, executive producer with Field Day Studios, brought to you by Revenue River. Revenue River is a Colorado-based digital technology and marketing agency helping companies in the outdoor industry execute their e-commerce and online efforts. As certified BigCommerce and Shopify partners and a Diamond HubSpot partner, they are well equipped with the technical experience and expertise to solve any business problem. Whether you need help with website design, system integrations, online store management, or growth marketing, they will help you achieve your goals. Revenue River clientele also includes Sterling Rope, Deuter USA, Alps Outdoors, and the Outdoor Biz Podcast. When you're ready to compete and win online, contact the Revenue River team at revenueriver.co/outdoorbiz. I've heard from outdoor retailers, brands, outfitters, and influencers that a constant challenge is engaging with new and existing customers. Multiple times a week, you scramble to post on social media, publish articles, blogs, videos, and more in order to grab attention. The problem is these posts are on passive mediums which lead to limited engagement and action. Today, a better option is a podcast, but you might think you don't have time, budget, or talent to produce a podcast. You do, and I'll show you how. Your podcast will reach more customers, helping them learn and get inspired, which will lead to stronger relationships and more sales. With a broader reach to an unlimited amount of customers, there is a clear opportunity to meaningfully impact a huge number of people. Your podcast will deliver these results and more, and I will show you the way. Go to podcastersworkshop.com/brainstorm to schedule your free brainstorm call, and we'll get your podcast on the path from idea to published. Visit podcastersworkshop.com/brainstorm. I had a fun conversation with Mike Ferrell, executive producer with Field Day Studios recently. We talked about his recent Mongolia adventure with Rally for Rangers, his barbecue chops, podcasting, and a whole lot more. Enjoy. Hey, Mike. Welcome to the Outdoor Biz Podcast.
Hey, Rick. Thank you very much.
Yeah, good to be talking with a fellow podcaster.
That's right,
I don't get to do that very often.
Yeah.
It's always surprising to me how few podcasts there are in the outdoor space. I think it's catching on, but there's not that many yet. Most of them are, the hook and bullet kind of stuff, which I guess makes sense. But we're a growing breed.
Yeah, exactly right. And really, if you look at it and you think there are so many podcasts out there, how in the world is it possible for anyone to listen to it?
Yeah.
But really, it's really just the beginning, I believe, for podcasts. So it's a great time to get in.
Yeah, I think you're right. You're spot on. I saw a statistic that's been floating around of all the hundreds of thousands of podcasts. I think they say 500,000 podcasts or whatever it is. You know what the average number of episodes of each podcast is?
No.
7.
Wow.
So a lot of people get excited about it and get into it, and whether they, for whatever reason, why they don't continue on. Or I heard another stat about, remember when Anchor jumped in and they had all these podcasts and bought all these shows, and I was listening to the Libsyn guys put on a very good podcast. I think it's monthly about podcasting and whatnot. And apparently there's thousands of just dead shows that Anchor still has, in the airways. You can go find episode 1 of the, Gin and Tonic podcast, or I don't know, whatever it is,
Oh, that's wild.
So, pretty interesting.
I've fallen into, or I've almost fallen into that trap, with my podcast. I originally I had the idea for my podcast in 2016 and,
oh, wow.
Got the logo created. I went out and bought all the equipment and I was excited, did a social media blast. And then I realized, man, there's a ton of work and I don't know what I'm doing. And I was overwhelmed by the process and I just didn't do it.
Yeah.
And then I went back. I ended up transferring to the School of Media and Journalism at UNC Chapel Hill to finish my degree. And after that, I realized, after I graduated and I realized, I'm going to get the Ferrell Show back on.
There you go. Right.
So,
yeah, it's a good platform. I love it. It gives me a lot of coverage. So you've had quite a range of experiences too. I mean, you did stand-up comedy. I think you did a little bit of TV. You made a short film. You sold computers. Was it Lenovo, I guess? Now you're telling stories about conservation and food and helping rangers out around the world. What I miss?
It's been a crazy journey for sure. When I left I was not a good student in high school by any stretch of the imagination. I went to summer school.
Wow.
A lot.
Were you just not into it, or what was the...
I loved going to school. I wasn't very disciplined in the work part. And, and my dad was like, you know what, for somebody who hates school, you spend more time there than anybody.
Right. If you just apply yourself, you wouldn't have to go as much.
Right. Yeah. And so after high school, because I was in theater and I loved performing, and I realized that I really loved just making people laugh and entertaining folks. And then my dream was to be on SNL. So,
okay.
When I was in my early 20s, I moved up to Chicago for a bit. I trained briefly at Second City Improv.
Wow.
And I was homesick and really broke, and I couldn't swing it. So I came back to Raleigh and really started digging in, and started writing and performing stand-up comedy, and had a public access TV show that I helped make and host. Oh, cool. And so doing a lot of creative stuff that way. Yeah. And I had a job at the same time. I was selling copiers the whole time, man. So
wow.
Cutting my teeth that way.
Yeah, that had to be tough.
Yeah.
And what about the World Championship Barbecue Team? That's pretty interesting too. That sounds cool.
Yeah, that's
Lily's Q, is that what it's called?
Yeah, so that's a great segue, actually. So my friends that I met in Chicago, one guy, he's classically trained, went to CIA and worked in some high-end restaurants, and another buddy of mine that I worked with, we would all get together on the weekends and drink beer, watch football, and cook food. And, after I left, those guys went on and they were sponsored by Viking Ranges for barbecue. And, after the economy collapsed in 2008, they started their own team and gave me a call like, hey, man, you want to come help us on the barbecue team? Like, absolutely.
Wow,
so,
very cool.
Yeah. So my buddy Charlie McKenna, he owns Lily's Q. They make barbecue sauces, chips. Now he's kind of blown up since we started just cooking barbecue. But I go down there once a year to Memphis, and we have a barbecue competition, and we won. Yeah, so we won first place in 2016 for pork shoulder.
Wow.
And it's a riot, man. It's a whole lot of fun.
That sounds like a lot of fun. I love barbecue. Yeah, it's grilling and eating both. It's both fun.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, just sitting back and for a couple of days, and right there on the Mississippi.
Wow.
And cooking barbecue and hanging back and chatting it up. It's a good time.
I'll have to get out to that. Yeah. So, and we met before you were on your way to Mongolia. I forget how we connected, but you were going over there to deliver a motorcycle, I believe.
Yeah.
Before we get into that, how'd you get into the outdoors?
So I credit I moved all over the place when I was a kid, and we were not an outdoorsy family.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I was, early high school, a buddy of mine, his family, they had a bunch of land up in West Virginia.
Mm-hmm.
And we'd go up there and just go like squirrel hunting. And I had never been hunting. I'm not a hunter now.
Mm-hmm.
But we would just go and just spend time in this cabin that didn't have electricity, and it was it was just awesome, man. And that really stoked my appreciation of the outdoors,
mm-hmm.
doing that. And me and my buddies, we go hiking a couple times a year on the Appalachian Trail, and I just love it, man.
Cool. You still do that? I mean, obviously you still, like I said, when we last spoke, you were headed to Mongolia for Rally for Rangers. Tell our listeners about Rally for Rangers. What's that all about?
Yeah. So Rally for Rangers is this incredible organization whose mission it is to protect the world's most beautiful places by empowering park rangers all over the world with motorcycles to protect their park.
Oh, cool.
So it's a volunteer-based organization. And I first read about Rally for Rangers in Iron and Air magazine in 2016, and I just thought this guy Joel Caldwell, I believe he wrote this article on his journey, and I just thought it was amazing. And then a friend of mine posted, that he was accepted. We had ridden motorcycles together in Raleigh, and I asked him, "Hey man, how did you get in?" And he's like, "Well, I think they're full, but you can apply." And so the year before that, I had just rode my motorcycle across the country, from Raleigh up to South Dakota, down Wyoming, Colorado, and then back the lower part of the states back to Raleigh, and kind of cut my chops of long distance riding and doing some off-road stuff in Colorado. And loved it. So it kind of gave me the confidence to apply. And this was and I got accepted in 2018, went to Mongolia and did this, incredible journey. Rode a motorcycle about 900 miles through the western part of the country, and delivered a brand new motorcycle to Urzat, this park ranger who's been a park ranger for 26 years.
Wow. Very cool. I had some friends. I had to bail on a trip to Mongolia. I think it was in 17 or 18. But the friends of mine that went just said it's like going back in time. It's still as wild as it was 100 years ago. It's
incredible, man. It's the most beautiful country I've ever been to. It's so vast and
huge.
And it's massive. And, I imagine it's what it would like traveling through Mongolia is like what it would be like traveling across the United States, 200-300 years ago.
Yeah. Wow. That's cool. And the people are all great. Yeah.
The people are unbelievably hospitable. And
were you riding just across the land, or were there dirt roads? What was the ride like?
Just some. Really, we're just riding across the land, and it's wide open too. So, there were, I believe, 15 or 16 of us on that trip, and we could split up. You know what I mean? And go, and you kind of take these different lines, because people are taking either horseback or, cars as well, trucks, vans, through this. And it's like, you feel like you're in this Mad Max adventure of just flooring it as fast as you can and just hauling across this terrain. And it's really quite something.
Jeez, that's amazing. And you did something similar in Nepal. What was that like?
Yeah. So this past year, this past November, did the same thing for park rangers in Nepal. And
what did you deliver to them?
We delivered, so in Mongolia, we delivered Yamaha AG200s, which are kind of like, they were built as like these farm bikes, and they're like dual sport kind of, but just super durable, tough bikes. And we didn't even get a flat tire on that trip, man, and which is insane to me.
Yeah.
And then in Nepal, we delivered Yamaha, like these 125s, and it's what their park rangers requested. So whatever the park rangers want, that's what we delivered to them. And
you ride the bike across to get it to them.
Yeah, exactly right.
Wow, that's amazing. And
so
did you have to do any maintenance on the thing when you handed it over? I guess it was the inaugural ride. It wasn't like thousands of miles, but still, it got some use. Beat up, sounds like.
Yeah, they took a beating. But we have a Yamaha mechanic with us.
Wow.
On the trip, and we cleaned the bikes up and ordered some new parts that needed to be replaced on the bikes. The ride was actually a lot more intense than we expected. We drove up. We went from Kathmandu up to to Lomontang, which is like the upper Mustang near kind of like near the Tibetan border. And you're up at 15,000 feet.
Right.
And those things were sucking wind. So, people had actually were having to push the bikes up a lot of these sandy hills.
Oh, jeez.
But actually, the second day in, I broke my hand.
Wow.
I crashed the bike and broke my hand and couldn't finish the ride.
Oh, bummer.
It was a big time bummer. I was going, it was nighttime, and we had done about 8 or 9 hours of riding that day, and it was off road. I was kind of by myself at this point. And it was pitch black, you're in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
And I'm cruising around, and this motorcycle comes around the bend, and he didn't have a headlight. And, he was in my lane, and he started drifting back into his lane, and I was trying to go around him at the same time. And so we kind of barely avoided each other, and I went down and went down pretty hard, and ended up breaking my hand and pinky. And
so in the middle of the night, you got in an accident in the middle of nowhere on 2 motorcycles. That's amazing.
It was pretty nuts.
Jeez. So what did you have to get flown out, or did you walk out, or what was?
No, we but again, it was a big group of us. So some other riders had caught up to me by this point. The other riders that I almost hit into, they're kind of helping me up and kind of fixing my bike all at the same time. It's everyone there is a mechanic and can work on motorcycles.
Right.
And I just hopped back on the bike. The other guys, I think the other motorcyclists that almost ran into me, I think they'd been drinking.
Yeah.
And it was kind of almost turned into a scene, but it's just like, let's just go. And I hopped on the bike and just rode the bike to the hotel and finished the ride that night.
Oh,
and
gotcha.
And then got to the hotel, and I knew it was bad. But I was hopeful that the next, I started, I took some Advil and some whiskey, and
tried to make it work.
Yeah, but the next day I knew I went to this little hospital, and if you could call it that, and had an X-ray, and it was like an old school X-ray machine.
Well, I was going to say that had an X-ray out there. That's impressive.
Yeah, but they had to call the technician in. It was like he walked in wearing his pajamas and like messed up hair, and he gets this old X-ray machine, and I'm like, hey, do you have any of those covers? Like the lead lap covers.
What?
And they just, no dice. And so, who knows? They took the picture. Who knows how much radiation I soaked in there?
Right.
And then they had to like process the film old school. And I just confirmed what what I already kind of knew. It was broken, so I couldn't ride. But
Jeez. So you didn't finish that one, huh?
No, I couldn't. I rode in the support vehicles and kind of had a different trip experience.
Okay, so you were able to carry on and go deliver the bike. Able.
Okay. Yeah, and I was there for another 2.5 weeks.
Oh, wow.
So I just kind of put tape around my finger with like a doctor's kind of popsicle stick type deal.
Yeah.
And just dealt with it that way. And but it made me realize that, all right, it didn't work out the way I had planned it, but it really worked out exactly how it should have. You just kind of accept it, and I was able to really look at all the scenery and take everything in, take pictures, and really just kind of experience the trip differently. And it gave me, I don't know, a different perspective, I guess.
I'll bet. Do you have plans to do that again? What are they doing in 2020?
Yeah, so I think I'm going to hang back in 2020, but they are going to, and they're taking applications, so they're going to Mongolia again. They do Mongolia every year, and then they do another country. So they do 2 rallies a year, and so they're going to Mongolia, I believe, in August, maybe, and then to Bhutan.
Oh wow, that'd be wild too. Holy cow!
Yeah, they're doing that in November, so that's going to be that'll be a great one.
Very cool. Yeah. So have you been? What other world travels have you done? Any others, or is that your pretty much?
No, my first time, the first time I traveled outside the United States, I was 30 years old, and I had a buddy of mine who was living in Argentina, and I thought, who knows how long he's going to go, going to be living down there, so I might as well take advantage of it. I booked a plane ticket and went down and stayed in Buenos Aires, and then took a 12-hour bus ride to this little town he was living in, and it just really just changed. It changed my life, man.
It captures you, doesn't it?
Yeah, I just wow.
Yeah.
Just exploring, and so I've been to Argentina, Australia, Italy, through like Budapest and some other countries, and I love just kind of getting lost.
Yeah, it's super fun. The only continent I haven't been to yet is Australia, but all the other ones, it's a blast.
Oh wow!
Yeah,
it really is.
Yeah. So is your Nepal trip your most epic adventure, or is there another one?
It's hard. I think Nepal, because I think Nepal is the most epic, my most epic trip, I would say, just because I'd never experienced anything like it. In Mongolia, there's, in Kathmandu, there's 3 million people in Kathmandu. Yep. I don't think I realized that before I went.
Yeah.
And in Mongolia, there's 3 million people in the entire country.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, it was just like this sensory overload of smells and colors and sounds. And, it's just, it was unlike anything I'd ever experienced.
I can't imagine Kathmandu now. I was there in the 90s. It's got to be just, so different now. It'd be interesting.
Yeah. When I first got there, it took me a little bit to settle in, as it does when I travel. I'm starting to realize it takes me a couple days to kind of shake off the
city.
Or
civilization or whatever,
exactly right.
Yeah.
And just kind of let go. I think that's the main thing. We just, just kind of live in it. And once I started doing that and realizing like, man, this place is amazing. And I really would like to go back to Nepal.
Yeah. Nepal's on my list too. Yeah. Well, I was only there that one time. We did a 2-day trek to a river and then got on a river, and it was a 5-day river trip, class 4. And it just monsoon rains came in. They told us it was going to be, they'd done the trip. It was a fam trip for Sobek. They were thinking about putting the catalog, and I was with a bunch of Sobek guides and buddies, and we were going to do a second fam trip. Another group had just done it the week before. So we met in Kathmandu, and they said, "Oh yeah, it's hotter than hell. You don't need your sleeping bags. Don't take rain jackets. Blah blah blah." And I'm standing in the back with a good buddy of mine, David Ripley, and we look at each other, and he looks at me, and I go, "You know what? This kind of sounds like a clusterfuck." And he said, "You're right." And so we ignored those guys, and we were the only 2 people on our trip with sleeping bags and rain gear, and it rained solid 4 days. The water came up. It just got really, really scary. I mean, brown, churning, muddy water. We had an older couple along, and they stopped about, I think it was day 3, and they were ready to walk out. And we said, well, there's really nowhere for you to walk out. We have to go downstream. And a couple of boats ripped, so we had to stop and do repairs. It was just crazy. But it was wild country. Yeah, that was...
That's quite a trip, man.
Yeah.
I mean, I realized that their level, the folks that are from there, their level of danger is like much lower than.
Oh, they live it every day. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's no big deal. We're traveling on this little tiny single track road, but it's for 2 cars, and the wheels are close to this 1,000-foot drop off, and
right.
I am free. I'm like, holy cow, man, this is it.
Yeah.
It's been real. And
Yeah, it's just like rush hour traffic for them. They just look over and keep on going. No big deal.
Unbelievable. Yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing. Let's shift gears a little bit. How'd you get into podcasting? What was the catalyst for starting that?
So after I stopped doing, after I did my, kind of stand up and producing comedic, like short films and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I kind of stopped all of it and I started working and I got into the corporate world and my creative pursuit slowly died.
Oh, okay.
And then, later on, a few years later, I realized that I really enjoyed just creating the whole process. And so I was like, in 2016, I was like, well, I'm gonna start a podcast. I'll just
podcasts were really new back then too. I mean, how did you stumble on podcasting of all the other things? I mean, you had some film background and other things. You chose podcasting because it was new.
Always enjoyed. Not real. I started listening. I've always listened to Mark Maron's WTF podcast.
Oh, okay, I don't know that one.
I'm a huge fan of his. He's a comedian, and I always just thought it was great. And even when I was a kid, I had like interviews of me interviewing my grandparents, and
cool.
but I'd always pretend like I was like a radio DJ or something. But I just thought it would be a fairly easy production to do and something I could do on my own. And so, it gave me an opportunity to meet folks and interview and kind of do something creative while I was working. And
what's the theme? Who do you interview and what do you talk about?
So the show, it's called the Ferrell Show, like Ferrell is in feral cat. And I interview musicians, chefs, artists, photographers, really anyone who is pursuing creative art.
Okay.
And kind of living on the fringe, taking risks and pursuing their passions.
Cool.
And so I like talking with them and learning about their journey to create and sharing their stories with folks.
Awesome. Well, I can't wait to listen.
Thanks.
Yeah. So of all these projects you've done, comedy, film, barbecue, podcast, which one of them inspires you the most? Which one do you get the biggest charge out of?
Oh, man, that's a great question. I think there are different pieces of it. I mean, the barbecue things, it's a whole lot of fun just because I love cooking. I love eating.
And, different kind of charge. Yeah. Right.
Yeah. So that's just a great experience. But from a creating standpoint, I'll say the podcast right now is a whole lot of fun, and I'm working on some other projects right now from a film standpoint that I'm pretty excited about. So as I'm going through and kind of working through the things that I enjoy doing, I really enjoy the whole process of creating. And
I'm with you.
And so it's coming up with an idea and then inspiring folks to rally behind it, and then working towards selling that concept and then making it come to fruition. It's just all really exciting to me, and something that I've just realized really through my podcast, actually, and talking to folks. There's another guy I interviewed. His name's Jay Gunn. He's a hip hop guy. He ran for, he was running for city council in Durham, where I'm from. And he just said, I'm just a creator. I just enjoy creating stuff. And it just really resonated with me. And I'm like, he just kind of articulated what I already knew.
Yeah. Yeah, sometimes it takes somebody else to say it. I kind of went through the same process. I was writing, tweaking my bio and stuff for my podcast and some other things, and the creator kept coming up because I did photography and, originally went to college for architecture, and so I've always been that creator, but it took someone else to say it and explain it in a way that's like, that's it. That's what I do. It's interesting how you have to hear it from someone else before you realize that that's what you do. It's
Yeah.
Can't pinpoint it.
Yeah, and it helps you kind of identify with it, like, oh, okay.
Right. Yeah.
All right. Other people enjoy the same process as well versus, some folks could look at us and be like, they're kind of all over the place. They don't really understand.
Right. When are they going to pick a lane?
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe never.
Yeah. So, I started Ferrell Media Group, my business of doing freelance producing and doing freelance producing and marketing strategy, because that's what I've been, that's through all my experience of AV production and comedy and marketing and broadcast journalism, be able to mash it all together and really work on fun, exciting projects and concept some, and then, or help others kind of help their projects come to fruition. So
get it done.
It's exciting.
That's very cool. What do you find most challenging?
Oh man, I think part of it, I think there's two things that are most challenging about it. One is your own internal, internal clock of like, holy shit, is this going to pan out?
Right. Is anybody going to listen?
I think that calming yourself down and just realizing that, you're on the right path, trusting your gut, your intuition, and going with that. That's part of what my podcast actually helps me do, is these folks kind of inspire me to continue going. And then I think the other hard piece of that is really just continuously getting that work flowing in.
Yeah.
So that's something to where, once get a few really solid things going, hopefully the snowball effect will happen and people will see the work and enjoy the work and see the kind of the quality output, and want to work with me.
Yeah. And you're right. You kind of have to just keep putting in the reps, so to speak. Right. I mean, you just got to keep, knowing in your mind, and you get little bits and pieces of inspiration from these. For me, I get them from guests, or I get it from, someone listening to a show or whatnot, but you just got to keep putting in the reps and putting in the reps and putting in the reps, to keep creating, and it'll happen on the other side.
I totally agree. And, I feel like it's like, there's a saying with motorcycle riding as to where the only way to get better is seat time. And it's the same with this. Yeah. Just go at it, be genuine in your pursuit, follow your passions, and do it for the right reasons, I think.
Yeah, I think you're right.
So
that's good. Let's shift gears a little bit. What other outdoor activities do you participate in? How did you get in shape for these motorcycle rides? That's got to beat the crap out of you, man.
It does, and it's funny. So So back in when I lived in Chicago in my late 20s, I was a big guy, man. I was approaching 300 bills.
Wow. It's a big guy.
Yeah. And, and I, and then when I was 30, I met my girlfriend and we just kind of slowly started, she's a twig, but we just kind of slowly started eating healthy and ended up, dropping, almost 90 pounds.
Cool.
So, but through, it's just kind of normal everyday stuff, working out, nothing. I didn't do anything crazy for the training. I didn't train motorcycle riding. I didn't do anything nuts. I just kind of continued doing my thing and crossed my fingers that it was going to be enough. So
it sort of turned out to be enough. That's good.
yeah, I made it.
Do you do any traditional outdoor backpacking, hiking, any of that kind of stuff?
Yeah. So I love, I do trail running. I went on a trail run today in our Umstead State Park.
Cool. Yeah. You did you said you did a trip on the Appalachian Trail too, right?
Yeah. So we'll go hiking, a few days and go spend some quality time just in the wilderness, man. And I love it. I love hiking. I love, just the quietness, the sound of the woods and really getting that time to kind of think. That's, and that's what I like about motorcycle riding as well, because you're really by yourself. You're trying to, navigate things. So I love hiking and camping and just setting a fire and hanging out.
It's pretty fun.
Yeah, it is.
Pretty hard to beat.
Yeah.
Do you have any advice for anybody wanting to get into the outdoor adventure stuff, space, or podcasting media?
Yeah,
either one, both.
I am. I've been hiking and camping and all that stuff for almost, I don't know, for a long time now, and I just love it. So some folks are maybe intimidated by the whole process of it, and I'd say just do something simple at first. Go do like a car camp or something like that.
Go on a hike in the park. I mean,
Yeah. Go hike in your local park and take that in. In regards to the outdoor adventure space, I'm fairly new to it.
Okay.
I'm over the past couple of years, I've really gotten into it with Rally for Rangers. And then now, I'm working with some filmmakers out of Utah and Wyoming on some projects. And, I'll be at Outdoor Retailer at the end of January. And so but it's all just because you just kind of put it out there. If you want something, just kind of take one step towards that direction. You might not know what the final product is going to be or what the final end goal is going to be, but if you have a general idea of the space you want to be in, just start reaching out to folks, introducing yourself, and just go to conferences, build relationships. And I think just doing it that way. And I think ultimately, whatever it is you want to do in the outdoor space will happen.
That's good advice. Yeah, it's a pretty welcoming, open industries, both adventure travel and outdoor. And I think that's just spot on. I mean, just reach out if you really want to go for it. Just reach out, and start talking to people.
Yeah, people have been incredible to me. So, people have been incredible to me. Just go for it. And in regards to podcasting, similar deal. Just try not to get overwhelmed by the process. Make it something simple at first. The equipment doesn't have to be the best. Just start out small, maybe, or if you do go larger, record a bunch of episodes before you launch, so you can kind of hit the ground running and you don't get overwhelmed by having to create.
That's good advice. Yeah. Get a few in the bank. Yeah. And it's amazing how simple your equipment can be.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I travel to my guests, so I go.
Oh, cool.
I pack my stuff in my car and I head out, and so I record on location.
Awesome.
Some places are great. Some aren't.
That's the truth.
I try to fix it in post.
There you go. You're probably better at that than I am. How about daily routines? Do you have any routines you use to keep your sanity? Meditate, walk the dog?
You know what? I try to exercise. I do. All these things are kind of, I'm trying to be more disciplined. I'm actually doing like a cleanse right now. Because I'm trying to like reset so I can get kind of on a daily routine. But I do meditate. Exercise, running really helps me kind of clear my mind. I drink a lot of coffee.
Yeah, I do too. Probably too much, but
that's all right.
Yeah, I don't drink it at night. I'm pretty much a morning, mid-morning guy, but afternoon I don't drink it. So
Yeah, I don't drink it past 3:00.
There you go. How about some of your favorite podcasts or books you give as gifts? You mentioned the WTF podcast. We'll link to that in the show notes.
Yeah, WTF podcast is incredible. I really enjoy Wild Ideas Worth Living.
Shelby Stanger, she was on the show a few episodes ago.
That's how I found your podcast.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So,
do you know Shelby?
I didn't beforehand, but I've been in touch with her since, and we've had some conversations. Yeah.
Right on. Yeah, you'd be a good guest on her show. Yeah, that'd be great.
She's so cool, man.
Yeah, she's awesome.
I really like I like Serial.
Okay.
I like some of them that kind of rope you in and are cliffhangers. But I really kind of tend to more conversational, whether like Wild Ideas or Mark Maron. I really like nonfiction.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah. I'll have to add that Mark Maron to my queue. Listen to that one.
He's a trip.
Yeah, it sounds like it. Do you have a favorite piece of outdoor gear under $100 that you've taken with you on all these adventures?
That I've taken with me on all the... Actually, yeah, I do. One thing that's gone with me on every one of these... I don't think it's under $100 though. I like a headlamp.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
My black diamond headlamp.
Okay, yep. Mm-hmm. That's right. That's in the range. Yeah.
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 And good gosh, I think like a solid knife.
Yep. Those two things are indispensable.
Yeah. Or a multi-tool. Right?
Yeah. Right. Yeah. A Leatherman or something. Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. As we wrap up, is there anything else you'd like to say to our listeners or ask of our listeners?
Well, thank you for listening, and feel free to check out my podcast or send me if you have any questions for me. I don't know if you'll be providing my contact
information. I will. Yeah. How can people reach out to you? I'll put that in the show notes. Yeah, if you don't mind. Yeah.
No, not at all. On my email is mike@ferrellmediagroup.com.
Cool.
And my social is mike.d.ferrell.
Perfect. Well, we link to that in the show notes and link to your podcast and all the other cool Rally for Rangers. I do some pretty extensive show notes, so we'll put all that in the show notes. Yeah. And
that's great, man.
I look forward to seeing you at OR. That'll be awesome.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
You'll be blown away. Yeah, I think you'll be blown away. It's a fun event. I've been going to it for years, and it's just... I tell everybody it's like a big high school reunion. It's just everybody gets back together, and there are hugs and slapping backs and drinking beers in the aisle at 3:30. It's just a blast.
Well, that's cool.
Yeah, a lot of business gets done too. So
I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, cool. Well, I'll see you in a couple weeks.
All right, Rick.
Thanks a lot. Thanks, Mike.
Take care.
Thank you for listening. If you want more of the Outdoor Biz Podcast, be sure and subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Pandora, Stitcher, wherever you get your podcast. Be sure and go to the outdoorbizpodcast.com where you find all the episodes, show notes, and much, much more. Have a great week and be sure to get outside.